Welcome back. It is your feel-good breakfast show, Expresso on S3. Now, 16 Days of Activism for No Violence Against Women and Children is a UN campaign which takes place annually from the 25th of November to the 10th of December. It focuses on raising awareness to the devastating impact that gender-based violence and femicide has on women and children and the social fabric of our society. Now, today we discuss 16 Days of Activism against GBV, the progress we've made so far and the strides we are yet to achieve. And that's why we've brought a panel together. Our panel consists this morning of Centre Manager at Hope House Counselling Centre, Mandy Denoon-Stevens, as well as author and columnist Haji Muhammad Doji, and completing our panel is producer and performing artist Enrico Hartenberg, whose theatre production Vloeibare Moed is inspired by real-life incidents of GBV in Mzansi. Now, we encourage you at home to share your thoughts. Perhaps you would love to share your own experiences. You're welcome to be part of this conversation on our WhatsApp line. Send us a voice note on 063 408 8863. We will be playing them throughout the show. To our panel, good morning.
Good morning.
You know, it's a tough topic to broach, but I'm so glad we're using this platform, like national television, to broach it, because it's about time. We talk about so many different things, but it's important to unpack this. But I'll start off with you, Enrico. This production that I hear about, apparently it was really inspired by one of the most devastating, I mean, there are many, but when everybody heard about Uyanene's death, I think there was a ripple. There seemed to have been a massive shift in focus, and suddenly the spotlight was moved for a change. And I think that's something that it should have changed a long time ago, but with that sad tragedy, now we had to make a platform for things like this, and a production was the perfect platform. In terms of your inspiration, is that where it came from? Did it come from that devastation?
Yeah, so I was a student back then, and then I was at her service, and I went back to my race room. And there I was faced with like a question being, how did we succumb to this? And we can't succumb to this and feel powerless. So I then wrote Vloeibare Moed, which is about the lives of 4 uni freshmen whose lives are in turmoil after one is a suspect in a GBV crime.
Wow.
Sure. Very powerful production by the sounds of things. And Haji, I'm now put the spotlight on you because it's been 4 years since this has happened. I remember the mass protests that broke out, everyone that marched to Parliament wearing black. Where are we now 4 years later?
It's been a slow process. I think South Africa just is one of those countries all around when it comes to protests and stuff where we have this very, very heated moment and then we forget and then money goes elsewhere. And then sort of nothing happens until something disastrous happens again. So, you know, we were supposed to have a national council set up by now for gender-based violence. They tried it in 2012. It's fallen apart again. And it's supposed to be reigniting itself. But I think for me, you know, an important thing is not to just discuss these things when people like Uyinene get murdered or when there's cases of like rape or whatever the case is, but every single day, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think one day a month in August is enough or 16 days is enough because, you know, how do you eat an elephant? By dipping its tail in wasabi. No, jokes. You one piece at a time. And twice a year is not enough.
Yeah, I completely agree. We seem to be very reactive in our activism, and it shouldn't be that way. It should actually be a matter of daily refreshers, daily signs. And if there was a committee made as promised, we would have been in that place as well. But I think let's take it to the counselling side of things, Mandy. We trust your 30 years plus of experience in counselling. But if I think about how many people have the pride factor involved when things are happening at home or in any sphere, nobody really wants to say anything about it. You almost feel like it's your fault. You feel like you can't because it's not acceptable socially. And those are some of the sort of boundaries we want to kind of break. So telltale signs that things are happening, directly or indirectly. I know it's a very difficult question to answer, but what in your experience have you seen that could be signs to actually tap somebody on the shoulder or take them for a coffee and have a conversation?
People are in trauma, and when they're in trauma, they change. And so you start seeing behavior that you're saying, that's unusual, that doesn't make sense. We see anger, we see excessive anxiety. Often people withdraw. I think the thing with gender-based violence is very much people withdraw. You start noticing they're not making contact with people. And tiredness, lack of energy. With children, we see school grades dropping. So there's a general shift and change in behavior. Because when people are in trauma, they go into survival mode. And they do everything they can to protect themselves.
Yeah.
The other side is that false smile, that I'm fine, I'm okay, nothing's wrong. And you just know this is not the person that you know as well.
Well, Mandy, thank you for joining us. Enrico, Haji, please don't go anywhere. This is a topic that needs more time, it needs more discussion, and we would love for you to also be part of it. If you perhaps have a question that you would love to ask our panel, get involved with our WhatsApp line. That number is 063 408 8863. We will be back with our panel to unpack this topic further.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
It is your Feel Good Breakfast Show, Expresso here on S3, and we're back discussing 16 days of activism against gender-based violence and femicide. Our panel consists of Centre Manager at Hope House, that is Counselling Centre, and Mandy Danoon-Stevens is here for you, as well as author and columnist Haji Mohammed Dauji, as well as completing our panel is producer and performing artist Enrico Hartzenberg, whose theatre production Vloeibare Moed is inspired by real-life incidents of GBV in Mzansi. And we encourage you at home to share your thoughts and experiences with us via WhatsApp. That number 063 408 8863 as we continue our conversation.
Well, we actually got a WhatsApp coming through, and this is anonymous. And I think Mandy, but perhaps anyone on our panel, take a listen to this, and hopefully, Mandy, you have some words of encouragement.
Good morning. I am from Kimberley. I just want to find out, how do we help somebody that has been abused for almost 39 years or 40 years, and she's still in the marriage, and the husband really abused her badly? How can we, as community, as friends, get involved? Because sometimes they say the individual must come out. But what do you do when you see somebody suffers, when you heard their cry, when she's confiding in you and tell you all the gruesome things the husband did to her, but still she's in the marriage? Please help. Please, we need help. Please help us.
Thank you, Anonymous, for that voice note. Mandy, this is coming from a loved friend, family member. We're not sure, but this is something that we experience probably over and over, where you see someone in a situation that's not good for them, but how as an outsider can you help them, or be like, you need to leave or get yourself help?
I think what she's doing is the most important, is being a friend, because abuse isolates people. And you're staying there as a friend, as somebody to listen to. A lot of reasons why people don't leave is because they have nowhere to go. Financial reasons hold them. So as a community, I think one of the most important things is to have a place of safety. Where do they go? How do they shift? How do they move out from there? So I think starting off by getting her to acknowledge that it's not right, it is abuse. Then providing a place of safety and a place to listen. And then there are always to have those counselors around who can do the emotional journey, who can listen, who can hear. But starting by being the friend and being the listening ear. And then from there is just encouraging and just saying to them, it's not okay.
Yeah. And is this where Hope House would come in a situation like this?
Very much so. I mean, we see a lot of people who are actually in abuse or suffered abuse, and just walking that emotional journey with them. First of all, identifying and being able to say, yes, it is abuse. This is not okay. I need to change. And then finding that voice, because abuse kills that voice. It kills the self-esteem. And just through counseling, you're starting to reframe, rethink, and get the activism back again, the energy to say, no, I am important. My children are important. And I'm going to stand up and I'm going to leave.
Thank you, Mandy.
And that's power, and I hope that sits well with you, and I hope that helps. If you need to get some assistance as well, we do have some contact details on screen for you as well. But our panel discussion does continue, and I think that when you think about abuse, you think about things being quite linear. It is emotional, it's physical, but even something like society's treatment of women of color can be a form of abuse, and that's, Haji, that's what your book highlights, in fact, Sorry Not Sorry. And I just wanted to unpack that with you for a second, you know, in terms of the way it traverses so many different angles as to how women of color are treated in society. The aim of the book was to create a massive spotlight on something that is so vitally important, especially in the South African context. Tell us a bit more about it.
Well, I mean, I genuinely do believe, I don't think this can be argued, is that, you know, women of color, particularly in, I'm going to speak to South African context because that's who we are, are of the most silenced groups ever, you know, and it's not just a self-induced silence, it's not just because silence of, as a result of trauma or abuse, although those are obviously factors, but it's just the societal norm. We're built to be quiet and to not say anything, and a lot of that comes out of fear, but also survival. You know, if we don't say anything, it's because either we're scared, or if we don't say anything, it's because it is the best way to survive. And what I was trying to do with Sorry Not Sorry is give myself permission, but also, I guess, lots of other people permission, and younger kids as well, to be able to say, I have to move through the world a certain way. This is what it looks like. I didn't create the rain, but I'm going to bring the best umbrella.
I love that.
Wow.
I love that metaphor. I love that it's incredible and it's super powerful. Now, Enrico, you know, when it comes to this, we heard it during the pandemic that South Africa is facing, you know, its own pandemic, and that is against GBV and men being at large, the perpetuators and the ones continuing this. How do you think, you know, we can curb the cycle? How do you think we can, you know, educate the men?
So in lockdown, I was on the floor laying, right? And then in the distance, I heard a mother saying to her child, "My kind, sy is nie so groot gemaak nie," right? And I think that that was my first, you know, call to the venture to complete my script. But it's basically just from my side as an artist is to kind of educate, you know, to bring kind of healing with my writing and art. And yeah.
You know, if I listen to what we are chatting about, a lot of it is, once again, reactive. If I look at Hope House as well, if you think about how it can also be preventative, you know, are there steps that even counseling centers, in fact, any center that has some sort of social responsibility, that preventative angle in terms of actually not only awareness, but also in training our thoughts, our feelings, our norms. We're not perfect. We were raised by people who indeed were not perfect, and so did they, and on it goes. But breaking that cycle, you know, how do we start actually developing the people so that we can start building a society?
I think there are a number of ways. I think individual counseling is a start because everybody is a member of a community. So as people heal from years and years of trauma, they break the cycle because they become whole. And as they become whole, they pass it on to others. And one of the things that Hope House has been doing, Judy, our director, is running a trauma-informed program. And she's been going into the schools and actually training teachers and non-teaching staff what it means to be in trauma, how to manage when the children are in trauma, and to create that environment that is safe. So when the child is traumatized, they have a different environment. They have a safe environment. Our Kaya Literature branch is specifically focused on gender-based violence. And then we've done men's group, just getting people to talk, to communicate. I think the main thing is getting people to talk, to identify this is not okay, and how do I heal from it?
And how can I step away and protect and heal from it, like you said? Well, Mandy, Enrico, and Haji, they're not going anywhere. We're continuing our panel discussion. And if you need some help, Hope House, we've got that number on your screen right now. You can also call their Kels River branch on 021-903-0521, or you can email them at info@hopehouse.org.za for a list of accessible branches, one hopefully that's close in your area. But don't go anywhere. Our panel discussion will be back.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. You are just in time as we're about to wrap up our discussion on bringing an end to gender-based violence and femicide in light of 16 days of activism. Our panel consists of Centre Manager at Hope House Counselling Centre, Mandy Denoon-Stevens, as well as author and columnist Haji Muhammad Dauji, and completing our panel is producer and performing artist Enrico Hartenberg, whose theatre production Vloeibare Moed is inspired by real-life incidents of GBV in Mzansi.
And now we continue our conversation, wrapping things up. But I think first and foremost, we do have a voice note that has come through. So let's just take a listen to this.
So, to the panel, I have a friend, and she has been divorced for 4 years. But yet her husband is still come and make chaos at home and abuse her and the children. And she's living with a 70-odd-year-old mother. And yet they are divorced. There is the interdict and there is a warrant of arrest. And whenever she phoned the police, nothing happened. I'm from the Eastern Cape, Anonymous. Thank you.
Thank you, Anonymous. Well, I think there are many people that can have these stories where the system is failing them. The system is failing the victim. Mandy, I don't know if you have any words that you would love to say or answer to that voice note.
Wow. Yeah, very difficult. In the end, community needs to step in. Community in terms of offering places of safety. Family needs to step in and come alongside the family. And we hear of many cases like this as well. Yes, we could offer individual counselling in this place where they are in danger. Family, community need to step in and help. Because you cannot just move away. Finances are such that you can't just up and go. So others need to come alongside and actually help.
And I just would like to say this as well, is that I believe, there's that concept, innocent till proven guilty. I think that if anybody walks into a police station, believe them until proven otherwise. Don't interrogate somebody who's traumatized that walks in there. Don't interrogate somebody and say, oh, you know what, maybe something else happened, and start, covering solutions. I feel like what you need to do is believe first and then act. And then you can deal with the rest later. That's all I'd like to see this country doing. And, Haji, on this point, if you look at the way we are responding on all fronts, the people are already upset about how we are responding to everything. In fact, I want to pull up this comment very quickly because I think this is quite a pertinent comment that has come through. It's from Gary Okamp, one of our regulars, and he says, the laws and policing should be dramatically changed. Government has given billions to fight this surge, but no change is seen. Where does this money go? A person beats their spouse to death, they get 8 years. Out of parole in 4. Person shoots a rhino, they get 52 years. And I mean, that's a powerful comment. It's an indictment, yes it is, but it should be, because where do we go next? I mean, we can have these 16 days of activism every year, and we can make a massive fuss about it. And yeah, it's gonna tick the little needle a little bit, but what's next? If there was an opportunity, let's just say, in front of a camera on national TV, where you'd say, hey, what's next on the agenda? What would you say?
Well, I would say that there are very few instances where, the public are faced head-to-head with opportunities of being able to look someone in the eyes, or being able to look perpetrators in the eyes, especially because you can't put a price on human life, but we do, right? And so that's why there's just way too many people who live with trauma and being abused and gender-based violence. But there are opportunities like within the media, within the public sphere, within the private sector as well, where things like this are brought to the fore. And then we create this idea of normative ordinance where we just like, okay, let's just forgive them, let them come back into the fold, let them just, be as they are. And obviously this sets up, perpetuates the wrong kind of societal expectation of men, and it gives them permission to just continue behaviors that shouldn't be allowed. And we talk about the public sector and communities and that kind of thing, but we never, like, if you look at this panel itself, it's two women and Enrico, and why isn't it all men? Why aren't men sitting here being interrogated about what they need to do to change society, not just themselves, but what they need to do to contribute to society and what they can do better and how they should preach to their own choir. Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to be a human being. And I'm not going to sit in a boardroom on Women's Day and tell other women how to be human beings. But that is still what happens.
It really
Thank you
is.
for that.
Thank you. Powerful.
Thank you.
Enrico, your production, Vloeibare Moed, of course, touching on some key things and also has a message of its own. How can people support, watch, see this product that you've put together?
Okay, so we are playing at Kleinvlei, Sarita High School, and Kailicha. And mind you, it is 4 boys telling the story. So, and it's free of charge. And the message for me behind it is for men to come together and to have a conversation about the issue at hand, young men, because I feel like they are the change and they are the future. So really, we need to furthermore interrogate more things about this issue at hand. Yeah.
Well, it's been an incredible chat with a really fantastic, informed panel from Hope House. Thank you so much, Mandy and Rico. All the best with your production.
Thank you.
Haji, sorry, not sorry. We need to pick up that. And, of course, check out the columns as well. But thank you very much for offering what has been a lot of solace to anybody who's watching. If it is indeed you, there were channels mentioned. Hope House is indeed one of them. But gender-based violence allowed this to be the catalyst for not just the 16 days of conversation, but there's got to be more conversation. There's got to be more activism and not reactivism. And that starts every single day with you and I. So to anybody who's facing abuse at the moment, you are not alone. We hear you and we see you, and change is coming.